What's up everybody, 40 the Broadway Saiyan here, and welcome back again to my YouTube channel, bringing you guys another video on Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omnia. In this video, I'm going to be talking about 7 amazing LD weapons that deserve their hype. These LD weapons have garnered praise not only from myself, but also fellow JP Opera Omnia players, as well as those of you that only play Global, but have seen these trailers on either the official Dissidia Opera Omnia JP Twitter, or other sources such as like Facebook or Discord. Now these LD weapons are definitely ones to consider to invest in because of just how powerful they are. I picked 7, and there are going to be others that I may have not mentioned on this particular list, but these are the ones that, at least for me personally, from the JP side of the game and from my experience with JP, I've used these quite a lot, and they really did make my life a lot easier for the more upcoming harder Lufenia stages. And then later on, as we see Lufenia Plus entering Global Opera Omnia, these definitely helped me with those as well. But before we talk about this, if you guys are brand new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on that notification bell. That way you guys are not missing out on future uploads. And if you guys enjoy what you see on my channel, be sure to hit that like button and share this video, as it does help me out. As always, don't forget to check out all of the fantastic resources out there for Dissidia Opera Omnia. The links will be down below in the video description, as well as the pinned comments. And last but not least, don't forget to check out all of the rest of the fantastic content creators for Dissidia Opera Omnia. Without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. The 7 amazing LD weapons that deserve their hype. Again, I'm basing this on my personal experience on JP Opera Omnia, and also to some of you guys that I've spoken to and, talk about JP and all that stuff, about these, really powerful LD weapons that are definitely worth considering your resources and things like that. So the first one that I'm going to mention is going to be Tifa's LD. We all remember how hyped we were, whether we both played JP or only Global, when we first saw this trailer. Tifa is going to be dealing an insane amount of damage with 6 multi-hitting Brave plus HP dumps. This can easily surpass the total damage done even by a burst phase. Like, average damage you could deal with this is around 600k to as high as 1 million damage off of one skill. Every HP attack with this LD skill, except the last one, will allow Tifa to recover her Brave based on 30% of the HP damage she deals, to ensure that each and every Brave plus HP attack will always have some sort of substantial Brave to play off of. This is also going to be changing both her Brave and HP attack commands to have no action delay, and after you use either one of these transformed commands, it's going to grant her a free skill usage on her next turn. This means that this allows her to have an abusable rampage against a single boss. For example, you could go right into LD, and then you're going to use the HP attack command that changes after using the LD, and then you're going to use her skill 2, which gets reworked, that will have no action delay, and then you can either continuously repeat skill 2 again for like a lot of HP damage, or go into skill 1, which also receives a rework, or you could just go right into LD again and just keep repeating the process, and you're going to really rack up the damage. Like, when Tifa's LD comes out, she becomes very popular for destroying a lot of the harder Lufenia, especially those bosses that have like a ton of HP. Now, because she is a damage dealer, you want to make sure to complement her damage with some sort of like an aura bot. For example, on Global Opera Omnia, you can consider, using her with like Balthier, or maybe Sarah, because Sarah did get her LD boards reworked. Or you can also definitely consider using her with like Jack's LD call, because that Brave damage up will definitely help her out. But Tifa's LD, my goodness, this garnered a lot of hype, and it definitely deserves that, because she deals a ton of damage, like I said, surpassing even total damage done in a burst phase just off of her LD skill alone. Now, the next LD weapon on this list is going to be Purim's LD. Now, while I know that Purim is not that much of a popular character, at least I don't think she is, she has proven time and time again just how useful she is in keeping your party alive with that HP recovered, that HP overflow, and, reduced HP damage. And with her LD, what she does is she's going to be healing the party's HP by a large amount. With that HP heal overflow, she gets a new buff that grants the party a massive stolen and recovered Brave overflow increase, also an HP regen. She increases the party's max HP, grants them last stand if they're at 50% HP or greater, and she's now going to be doing a follow-up attack after she takes action. And that follow-up attack that triggers after Purim acts, what this does is it reduces reduces enemy Brave by 100% of her current HP. So whatever her HP is at, 100% of that is going to be subtracted from whatever the enemy's Brave is, and then afterwards she's going to be delivering a powerful AoE HP attack based on 100% total HP of the party. So you can imagine just how powerful that follow-up attack is, especially when we start to see stages that really take advantage of like Brave damage reduction and all that nasty stuff that we're going to be seeing in later Lufenias and Lufenia Plus. Purim is one of those characters with her LD that can help mitigate all of that ridiculous reduction that we're going to be coming across with, and I've definitely been using her quite a bit, even up to now on JP Opera Omnia. I've used her on the latter Lufenias, I've used her on Lufenia Plus, and her LD is definitely one of those that's going to help you out a lot, especially to deal with some of the more, I would say, ridiculous mechanics later on in Opera Omnia. Now the next one should come to no surprise. Everyone's been talking about Cids LD because Cids LD introduces something very unique to us. So first of all, his LD performs an AoE Magic Brave plus HP attack with 100% AoE HP damage. It's also going to recover one usage of his Skill 2 red card, and his Skill 2 red card does get a pretty good rework. It's going to be granting a new buff, and what this new buff does, check this out guys, it increases the party's attack, it increases the party's HP damage dealt, increases their stolen Brave Overflow and recovered Brave Overflow. Now, it doesn't stop there. This new buff also grants the party member a chance to hit Brave damage cap, which is those rainbow numbers, regardless of any defense increases or Brave damage reduction in place by the enemy. So let's say, for example, a great example of this would be like, remember the Kirin Lost Chapters Lufenia, when those teddy bears gain that huge aura, the red aura, which pretty much forces you to deal 1 Brave damage, and you have to break them to get rid of the aura. Well, what this buff does is it bypasses that, because regardless of the reduction, it's going to give your party member a chance to hit Brave cap no matter what. So if they're like, you know, with all the buffs and all the auras that, let's say, you're stacking, let's say like the maximum amount of damage they could deal is like 11,000, you know, 498 Brave damage, right? It's going to force them to hit that even if the enemy has that ridiculous aura that forces you to deal 1 damage. This allows a lot of your offensive characters to become monstrous damage dealing beasts, and it's such a powerful LD. I still use it up to now. A lot of people on JP still use it up to now. It's definitely one of those LD weapons that you definitely want to keep your eye on, because it's going to make your life a lot easier when you're going to be encountering these harder Lufenias and Lufenia Plus. So Cids LD is definitely, it definitely deserves the hype that it's been getting. Now the next one might be interesting to you, but this is one that I kind of overlooked, which is Agris LD, because when I first saw this LD trailer, I was just like, oh, okay, so she pretty much uses Divine Ruination, which is one of her skills. I think it's Divine Ruination from Final Fantasy Tactics, but her LD allows her to perform a powerful AoE Brave plus HP attack that does 3 HP dumps. It changes her Brave attack into an upgraded Brave attack command, and check this out, it inflicts a powerful frame debuff that applies Confuse, Brave damage taken up, and HP damage taken up. That is extremely powerful because she is shutting down an enemy's turn, and later on there are going to be some Lufenia fight or Lufenia Plus fights where enemies like to turn warp, and if you have that debuff present, man, they're not going to be able to do anything or take advantage of their turn warp. And also the added effects too is Brave damage taken up by the enemy and HP damage taken up, so it allows your party members to deal more damage to the enemy while they're confused and unable to attack. And also it grants her a special new effect that increases her own attack and Brave damage dealt, and it also increases the party's Brave damage dealt, stolen and recovered Brave Overflow, and Brave recovery. So quite a good LD there. Again, when I first saw it, I wasn't too impressed, and I was initially a little bit bummed out because I was like, oh, that's all they're gonna give her. But then when I really research at what it really does and just how powerful it is, especially for latter Lufenia pluses that tend to be a little unfair at times, it's really strong. That frame confuse and being able to deal more damage to the enemy is just fantastic. So this is going to be another LD that I feel like definitely deserves the hype. Now the next one is also another one where when we first saw the trailer, we were kind of like, okay, so what's so special about that, right? It's going to be Cids LD. So Cids LD, I would say the trailer when it came out on Twitter was kind of like, okay, doesn't look too impressive, right? There's no big numbers or anything crazy like that. But remember, big numbers is not what makes the weapon. Like, I know if you're a damage dealer, that's definitely what is eye-catching, but check out what Cids LD does and why it's definitely worth the hype. It auto-breaks all enemies, which is awesome. It recovers the party's brave based on the total buffs present on the party. It allows for a 200% recovered brave overflow, and then it's going to deliver 2 100% AoE HP attacks based on the current brave to all enemies and without depleting your own brave. So you're going to be dishing out 2 powerful HP dumps, and you get to keep your brave. So pretty crazy, right? But it doesn't stop there because, one, it's going to be granting a new buff that increases the party's critical rate up by 100%. It also increases the party's stolen and recovered brave overflow based on the total buffs present. It increases the party's HP damage dealt based on the total buffs present. And then, check this out, it allows party members to recover brave based on their max brave when dealing a critical hit based on total buffs present. So again, let me explain how this works. So we're going to use the Kirin Lost Chapters Lufenia as an example. They have their red aura up, forces you to hit 1 damage regardless of what you do until you break them to get rid of that aura. So what this does is, even if you're hitting one brave damage, depending on what your max brave is, each of those critical hits is going to recover a certain amount of brave based on your max brave. So you're still able to like build up your brave and deal, a significant amount of HP damage regardless of what kind of reduction it is. In a way, it's kind of similar to what Setzer's does, except in a different way, because it's allowing you to recover your brave while you're dealing critical hits. So imagine, like, for example, let's say you have Vayne, right? And you're fighting against the boss from Kirin's Lost Chapters Lufenia. The red aura is up. You have Cids LD buff active, okay, and you're dealing ones. So let's say your max brave is at 30,000, right? So even if each brave hit is dealing 1, you're recovering a percentage of your 30,000 max brave. So you're, in a sense, able to deal a significant amount of HP damage even if you're only dealing 1. So it's very, very powerful. And again, one of those LDs that's definitely going to help you out when it comes to like massive brave damage reduction and all that crazy shenanigans that we're going to be dealing with ladder Lufenias and Lufenia Plus. So Cids LD, definitely deserving of the hype. Now the next one is another one that shouldn't come to any surprise. Man, this character made a huge impact both on the JP and the global side. Well, global players were like, what in the world did they just release? Cids LD. Cids in himself is just a monster. I think he's broken, which is one of the reasons why I think Square was releasing content that kind of, prevented him from, like, they made it like, chase immune or like reduce chase damage, but pretty much Cids LD allows him to deliver a multi-hitting brave plus HP attack 3 times. He also heals his allies' brave based on the total HP damage dealt. He also allows you to manipulate the turn order, which allows Cids allies to act immediately after. So very similar to what, for example, let's say Ignis's EX ability does. It's going to auto-initiate a launch, and it's going to grant a buff that increases the party's chase HP damage dealt, and then it allows Cid to trigger a defense-ignoring multi-hitting brave plus HP attack 3 times if he was the one that started the chase sequence. This buff also allows Cids to instantly launch when he attacks, and it allows for unbelievable amounts of damage, upwards to like 1 million plus off of one launch. And we've seen this in the trailer, and we've seen it in multiple videos from JP content creators. If you set this up properly, you got the Pandemonium summon, you got, brave damage up from, let's say, for example, Jax LD and Kurisame's, debuff with the HP damage up, and you set up this launch, it's an insane amount of damage. Like, he melts the boss's HP, allowing you to deal like 1 million plus damage. It's insane. And to top it off, it grants him a free skill usage on his next turn. So it's just like, wow, this character is broken. He is like the offensive launch king, and yeah, another LD weapon that is deserving of the hype and has definitely gotten people excited and looking forward to when this LD finally arrives in Global Opera Omnia. Alright, so the last LD that I'm going to be talking about, the 7th LD for this video, is Auron's LD. And you guys have seen my recent videos. I've been showing Auron off on the side just because I really enjoy using him. So Auron's LD pretty much turns him into a cover tank. He's going to be delivering a powerful defense-ignoring multi-hitting brave plus HP attack twice, and defense ignore later on is actually quite powerful. It's going to be inflicting melee imperil, which is his debuff that is that he uses, and then a new debuff that applies brave and HP damage dealt down. Brave and HP damage dealt down on the enemy targets. So brave and HP damage they deal is going to be reduced. It's also going to allow, it's also going to be inflicting HP damage received up. They're going to be taking more HP damage, and then melee imperil to stack on the other melee imperil, the generic buff that he already inflicts, and he gets a free skill usage on his next turn. It does not stop there with Auron, so it's going to grant him a new buff that allows him to deal more Brave and HP damage on a debuff target, which you will, because he debuffs the target. It reduces the Brave damage he receives. It grants him an HP regen, increased Stolen Brave Overflow. It also Brave refunds him based on the HP damage he deals with an HP attack. It also grants him Last Stand at 50% or greater HP, and it allows him to counterattack when he takes Brave and HP damage. Now, the counterattack that he delivers is also a defense-ignoring, multi-hitting Brave plus HP attack with split HP damage. It also heals his own HP based on the HP damage he deals, and inflicts his new debuff. Pretty crazy, right? So he's healing himself, keeping himself alive, and also really hampering the enemy's defense, offense down, and allowing you to be able to deal more damage. And he's taking all the damage for you, pretty much just like how Gladio or Galuf, covers for your allies, except Auron is like now the king at it, currently on JP Opera Omnia. And the new buff that he applies to his allies, it allows Auron to cover for his allies. It also increases his allies' defense, also grants them Brave damage reduction, and HP regen. So Auron effectively has become the most powerful tank right now in JP Opera Omnia, and I highly encourage you guys to keep this LD weapon, keep your eye on it, because this one is strong. And I actually recently used Auron on the Lufenia Plus that is very recent upon the making of this video on my JP account, and it's insane. He's very, very strong, and I've been using him a lot since his LD weapon came out. Alright guys, well this is going to go ahead and conclude my video for the 7 amazing LD weapons that definitely deserve their hype. Again, the goal of this video is to educate you guys on these specific LD weapons and kind of, prepare you guys, whether or not you want to invest in these or not. But definitely, I think these ones are worth considering because of just how helpful they are and how powerful they are. Now, I understand again that there are other LD weapons out there that I may have not mentioned, and feel free to mention it, down below in the comment section. I'd love to hear from you guys about which LD weapons I possibly could have added onto here, but there's definitely really powerful ones too that are not on this list, but these are the ones for me that have really, really stood out, and I enjoy using them. I still use them up to now, and I think you guys are going to have a fantastic time using them if you guys consider to pull for them when they finally come out to Global Opera Omnia. Thank you guys again for watching my video. Stay tuned for the next one, and mahal everybody.